cryopod hissed open. Ancient gas vented from the chamber as Captain Pixis and his Lurian salvage crew watched in stunned disbelief. A human hand emerged from the fog, followed by the rest of a very much alive human male. It should have been impossible. This ancient colony ship had drifted dead in space for centuries. Yet here was a survivor, and that fact would change everything for Pixis and his crew. Hours earlier, the salvage ship Zephon had docked with the massive derelict vessel. It was a relic from the early days of humanity's expansion to the stars, long before they became the dominant power they were today. The colony ship was a ghost, dark, airless, devoid of all life, a prize ripe for Pixis and his team to pick clean of any valuable technology or resources. As the Lurians explored deeper into the cavernous ship, they came across the cryogenic chambers, row after row of pods, all showing no signs of power. All except one. Pixis had approached that single pod with its faint energy signature, wondering how it alone had survived the long centuries. He never expected the pod to suddenly come to life before his eyes. The human who staggered forth was dressed in an ancient uniform, a rifle clutched in his hands. He looked around wildly, trying to get his bearings. "Who are you? What's going on?" he demanded in a language Pixis's translator barely understood. Pixis raised his hand slowly. "I am Captain Pixis of the Lurian salvage vessel Zephon. Your ship has been adrift for a very long time. You appear to be the only survivor." The human's eyes narrowed. "I am Commander Michael Campbell of Earth Colony Mission Homestead," he said in a clearer, more authoritative voice. "We were attacked, forced to abandon the command module. I need to get to the nearest human outpost immediately and report what happened." Pixis felt a rising tension, a tightness in his chest. He exchanged nervous glances with his crew. If this human got in contact with his people, they would surely come to retrieve him and the ship. An extremely valuable prize would slip through their fingers. But to defy a human, to anger their government that now ruled a wide swath of the galaxy, it could mean the end of Pixis and his crew. The Lurians were a small, opportunistic race. They survived by scavenging and trading, not by making enemies. Yet as Pixis looked at the colony ship, at the technology that was ancient to humans but groundbreaking to his own people, he felt the pull of opportunity, the profit he could make, the power he could gain. He faced the human, Commander Campbell, and made a choice that would change the fate of both their peoples. "Of course, Commander, we will help you get home." The lie tasted bitter even as Pixis smiled. Despite his misgivings, Pixis saw an opportunity he couldn't ignore. He turned to Michael, his face a mask of calculated friendliness. "Commander Campbell, we will help you reach the nearest human outpost. In return, all I ask is a fair share of any valuable technology or information we recover from this ship. It's only right, considering we're the ones who found you." Michael hesitated, his grip tightening on his rifle. He was alone in unfamiliar space, with no idea how much time had passed. As much as it galled him, he needed these aliens. "Fine, we have a deal, but I'm in charge here, understood?" Pixis nodded, his smile never reaching his eyes. "Of course, Commander, we are at your service." Together, the unlikely allies began the arduous task of restoring power and life support to the ancient ship. Michael worked tirelessly, his hands flying over consoles as he tried to piece together what had happened. Pixis and his crew assisted, but always with an eye towards their own agenda. In a quiet moment, Pixis slipped away to contact his Lurian superiors. He spoke in hushed tones, relaying his discovery and his plan. The response was swift and clear. Seize control of the vessel once it was functional and bring the human to them. The Lurians saw a chance to gain leverage over the powerful humans, and they weren't about to let it slip away. As the ship slowly came back to life, Michael delved into the logs, desperate for answers. What he found sent a chill down his spine. The ship had been attacked by unknown alien forces, sustaining heavy damage. They had crash-landed on a nearby planet to effect repairs before the crew entered cryosleep, intending to continue their journey when the ship was space-worthy again. but something had clearly gone wrong. Michael shared his findings with Pixis, and together they set a course for the mysterious planet. When they arrived, they found the remains of an abandoned human colony amid an alien ruin, a testament to the attacking aliens' presence. As they searched the ruins, they stumbled upon advanced technology unlike anything they had seen before. Even to Michael's eyes, it was groundbreaking. Pixis and his crew exchanged glances, the same thought running through their minds. This could shift the balance of power in the galaxy. But as the days wore on, tensions began to rise. Pixis's crew grew restless, eyeing Michael with increasing hostility. They wanted to eliminate the human and take the ship and technology for themselves. Pixis found himself struggling to maintain control. It all came to a head when Michael discovered a hidden chamber in the alien ruin. Inside, rows of cryopods hummed with life. Dozens of his former crewmates, including Admiral Grayson, his mentor, and the ship's captain. Hope surged through Michael as he worked to revive them. But Pixis saw his chance slipping away. He gathered his crew and they launched their plan to take over the ship. Alarms blared as they stormed the cryo chamber, weapons drawn. Michael looked up from the cryopod controls, his eyes widening as he took in the scene before him. His newly awakened crewmates, groggy and disoriented, struggled to understand the situation. Admiral Grayson stepped forward, his bearing every inch the commanding officer despite his long slumber. Pixis and his Lurians faced them, weapons trained on the humans. The standoff was tense, charged with the understanding that the next few moments would decide the fate of both their peoples. In the heart of the ancient alien ruin, with untold power at stake, the lines were drawn. The true fight for the future had just begun. The tension in the alien ruin crackled like static electricity. Michael stood his ground, rifle trained on Pixis. The Lurian captain's eyes darted between Michael and Admiral Grayson, calculating his odds. "Drop your weapons," Grayson ordered, his voice firm despite centuries of cryosleep. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then Pixis's finger twitched towards his trigger. Michael didn't hesitate. He lunged forward, tackling Pixis to the ground. The two grappled, rolling across the dusty floor. Michael's fist connected with Pixis' jaw. The Lurian's weapon clattered away. "Stand down!" Michael shouted to the other Lurians. Most complied, seeing their leader subdued. A few tried to resist, but were quickly overwhelmed by the revived human crew. Hours later, Michael paced the bridge of the colony ship. They'd locked the Lurians in the cargo hold, posting armed guards. Now came the hard part, getting answers. Pixis sat across from Michael and Grayson, his wrists bound. "I told you, we had nothing to do with the attack on your ship." "Then who did?" Grayson demanded. Pixis sighed. "Marauders, a vicious species that preys on others. They saw your expansion as a threat and wanted your tech." Michael leaned in. "What about the missing colonists? The empty cryopods?" "Taken," Pixis admitted. "For ransom or study, I'd guess." The implications hit Michael like a gut punch. How many innocents had suffered because of their centuries-long absence? Grayson and Michael exchanged a look. Despite everything, they needed Pixis and his crew. "We have a common enemy," Michael said. "Work with us to stop them, and we'll consider your debt paid." Pixis nodded slowly. "Agreed." They pored over star charts recovered from the ruins, tracing the Marauders' likely path. "There," Pixis pointed, "a desert world, perfect for a hidden base." Days later, their mismatched fleet approached the planet. Michael led a team of human marines and Lurian scavengers to the surface. They crept through sand dunes towards a metallic structure jutting from the landscape. "On my mark," Michael whispered into his comm. He counted down, then gave the signal. They swarmed the base, catching the guards by surprise. Alarms blared as they fought their way deeper inside. Plasma bolts sizzled past Michael's head as he dove for cover. "This way!" Pixis called, gesturing down a corridor. They battled through room after room until they reached a vast chamber. Michael's breath caught in his throat. Rows of cryopods lined the walls, each containing a human form. "We found them," he breathed. As they moved to free the captives, a thunderous boom shook the facility. Massive, armored forms stomped into view, battle mechs piloted by Marauder reinforcements. "Get those pods open," Michael shouted, diving behind a console as energy beams lanced overhead. "We hold this position at all costs." Human and Lurian alike scrambled for cover, returning fire against the advancing mechs. Michael knew their window of escape was rapidly closing. They had to hold out long enough to save the colonists, no matter the price. The chamber erupted into chaos as the Marauders swarmed in. Towering battle mechs stomped through the entrance, their weapons glowing with deadly energy. Michael's heart pounded as he realized just how outnumbered they were. "Defensive positions, now!" Admiral Grayson's voice cut through the din. "Protect those pods at all costs." Human Marines and Lurian scavengers scrambled to form a perimeter around the cryopods. Michael dove behind a fallen column, plasma bolts sizzling past his head. He returned fire, his rifle bucking against his shoulder. The air filled with screams and the acrid smell of ozone as energy weapons discharged. A mech's cannon obliterated a stack of crates inches from Michael's position, showering him with debris. "We can't hold out like this," Pixis shouted over the comm. "Their firepower is too much." Michael gritted his teeth, knowing the Lurian was right. As he watched another Marine fall to precise mech fire, an idea struck him. "Admiral," he called out, "let me take a team to sabotage their reactor. If we can knock out power, those mechs are useless." Grayson's face was grim as he considered the plan. "It's suicide, Campbell." "It's our only shot," Michael insisted. After a moment's hesitation, Grayson nodded. "Do it. Take Jensen and his Marines. And Pixis. Send your best techs with them." Michael gathered his team, 4 hardened human soldiers and 3 Lurian experts. They slipped out a side passage as Grayson ordered covering fire. The corridors were a maze of twisting metal. Twice they encountered Marauder patrols, resulting in vicious close-quarters firefights. Michael's armor was scored and dented by the time they reached the reactor chamber. Inside, alien technicians worked feverishly at control panels. Michael's team burst in guns blazing. As the Lurians set to work planting explosives, Michael and the Marines held off waves of reinforcements. "Charge is set," one of the Lurians called. "We have 30 seconds." They sprinted for the exit. Michael brought up the rear, laying down suppressing fire. An explosion rocked the facility just as they cleared the blast doors. A wave of energy washed over them as every system in the base went dark. In the sudden silence, Michael allowed himself a grin. "All units, attack!" Grayson's voice crackled over the comm. "Push them back!" Michael led his battered team back to the main chamber. The mechs stood motionless, their pilots trapped inside. Human and Lurian alike swarmed over the confused Marauders. In minutes, it was over. As the last pockets of resistance were mopped up, Michael made his way to a bank of still-flickering computer terminals. "Sir," he called to Grayson, "you need to see this." The Admiral joined him, eyes widening as he took in the display. "An AI network for autonomous drones?" Michael nodded grimly. "And that's not all. This database, it has locations, command structures, everything we'd need to take the fight to them." Grayson's expression hardened. "Well then, Commander Campbell, it seems our mission just got a lot more complicated." As the freed colonists stumbled from their pods, dazed but alive, Michael knew a decision had to be made. Stay and press their advantage, or retreat with the intel they'd gathered. Whatever they chose, the real war was just beginning. Michael's eyes stung as acrid smoke filled the reactor chamber. He grabbed Pixis by the arm and shouted over the deafening klaxons, "We need to move! Now!" The two sprinted down the corridor, their boots clanging on metal grates. Behind them, the reactor core pulsed with an ominous red glow. Emergency lights bathed everything in a hellish crimson as they raced against time. "Left here!" Pixis yelled, yanking Michael around a corner. They stumbled into a hangar bay where a single Lurian shuttle waited, its engines already spooling up. As they clambered aboard, Michael's comm crackled to life. Admiral Grayson's voice cut through the static. Campbell, report. What's your status? Reactor's going critical, sir, Michael panted as he strapped himself in. We're evacuating now. The station's done for. The shuttle lurched as Pixis punched the throttle. They blasted out of the hangar, narrowly avoiding a piece of falling debris. Through the view screen, Michael watched the battle station grow smaller, its hull breached in multiple places. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from the station's core. The shockwave slammed into their shuttle, sending it tumbling end over end. Michael's head snapped back, stars exploding behind his eyes as it cracked against the bulkhead. When his vision cleared, he saw the void of space littered with debris. Where the Marauder station had been, only a rapidly expanding cloud of superheated gas remained. Did we do it? Pixis groaned, nursing a gash on his forehead. Before Michael could answer, a bone-chilling shriek tore through his mind. He clutched his head, crying out in agony as an otherworldly presence bore down upon him. Through the shuttle's viewport, space itself seemed to tear open. Massive shapes emerged from the rift, cyclopean vessels of unfathomable design. As Michael watched in horror, beams of sickly green energy lanced out from the lead ship, carving through the Allied fleet like paper. No, he whispered, his voice hoarse. We're too late. The comm exploded with panicked chatter as ship after ship fell to the ancient armada's onslaught. Michael could only stare, paralyzed as humanity's hard-won victory turned to ash before his eyes. Pixis's voice snapped him back to reality. Michael, we need to warn the others. If we don't get this information back to our people, everything we've fought for is lost. Michael nodded, his fists tight as he plotted a course away from the carnage. As their tiny shuttle limped towards the nearest jump point, he knew the real war had only just begun. The fate of galaxies now hung in the balance, and they were running out of time.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.